Dr. Thacker, first day of spring, and you decided this is the time to announce your retirement. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's the perfect timing.
Why now?
Well, it's the perfect timing. You know, Penn-Harris-Madison School Corporation is performing at the highest academic level ever, one of the best financial shape that we've ever been in. We have amazing facilities that we continue to improve, and we have the lowest tax rate around. So it's a perfect time for me to leave and to have a new person take the baton and continue making PHM great.
Do you know who that new person is going to be at this point?
The school board will go through a process with that, and so we'll know more about it in the near future.
Do you have someone in mind who you'd like to see?
I always have someone in mind.
Okay.
You know, and I'd have to say that, you know, I've hired every single administrator in PHM, and we have the best leadership team that I've ever worked with.
So you would be comfortable with someone internal?
I'd be very comfortable.
Talk about your long and winding road in education. You started off in a PHM school, right?
I started off at Madison Elementary School. I graduated one semester early, so I was 21 years old. So I was at Madison, I was teaching 6th grade. And they were great. And so I stayed out there for 5 years and had great experiences. The parents were amazing. And before I even talked about the triangle of success, they were doing it out there. So that was so much fun. And then because of lower enrollment, there was some attrition. So I went to Mary Frank, the school administration, educational service center. They asked me to go there for additional experiences and work in an individual guided education program. So I went there. It was an open space school. I learned a lot. Had great mentors. Bob Blake was a principal, great mentor. And from there, I ended up going to Twin Lakes School Corporation. I had 2 principalships there. And then I went up to Saginaw, Michigan, and I served as a director of curriculum, school improvement, professional development. And then I was recruited to Lawrence Township, Metropolitan School District of Lawrence Township in Indianapolis, large school district, Lawrence Central, Lawrence North High Schools. And I served as a director of elementary school, and then I served as assistant superintendent, human resources. From there, I went to Logansport for 8 years, and I was superintendent there. And then I had the destination job, the dream job that I always wanted, and so I had the privilege of coming back here, and I've served here for 19 years. It's just an extraordinary place. There's no place that I'd rather be. It's been the highlight of my entire career.
Talk about what you had an emotional attachment to PHM, obviously, before you became superintendent, but talk about what the shape the district was in when you showed up.
In 2006, when I showed up, one of the first directives that I was given was to come up with a $3 million cut in personnel and programs. And of course, that would be equivalent to about $5 million today. And so that was pretty significant. And then the facilities, I was given a plan which was $55 million, and said, you know, let's work on this and make the school district better. So, and they had laid off teachers every single year. And so when I got here, I had a lot of experiences and a different belief system and making sure that people can feel like they're significant and valued and that they can self-actualize. So I had to make sure that those things were happening. So actually Gary Fox was instrumental. He was one of the board members that hired me along with Larry Beeler. And I was talking to Gary Fox as an officer, and I said, if you guys give me a chance, you won't have to do any of these layoffs. You won't have to cut any of these programs. And they said, because I was told, in October, come with a plan. And I looked around at the things we were doing and not doing. And so we did some innovative kinds of things, and within a year, and we worked with the legislature, and we really changed the funding formula with the task force, Families for Fair Funding. And a lot of people were involved with that. Our Teachers Association was active, but we spearheaded that one, got the complexity changed, the foundation was changed, and that's why the PHM has the same amount in the foundation as everybody across the state. So that was great.
How did you come up with your triangle of success? That's what you're known for. That's what essentially now the school logo looks like, the triangle of success.
Actually, when I worked in Logansport, and we created a lot of different partnerships, I always talked about how important it was to involve the parents because the research was crystal clear. And in Logansport, it was ranked the 285th out of 293 districts with graduation rates. We turned to the top 3rd in the state. Indiana High School Chamber, or the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, named the high school a Best Buy within 5 years and 2 Blue Ribbon schools. So we did a lot of great things, but I talked about getting parents involved. And so I would talk about that, and then it was funny because kids would go on a field trip and they would send back pictures and say, hey, Dr. Thacker. And it would be the triangle of success. So ultimately when I got here, we kept doing this. We talked about, let's just trademark it. And so we worked with our law firm, they trademarked it, and it says on this triangle, students, teachers, parents. And we know that they're all key members. And so that's one of the things that created synergy for us, and it's really contributed a lot to the greatness of our district.
What do you think, and this is not just for you personally, but as an overreaching angle on this, what do you think has been the biggest change in education over the last, 50 years? We can go all the way back to the start of your educational career, but since you have been the superintendent at PHM, what's been the biggest change?
Well, if I actually go back to the beginning, I can say that when I started, and we think of, because I started when I was 21 years old, okay, we didn't even have special education yet. Okay, when I was a student teacher, my principal, who was a great teacher and she was in her 60s, couldn't have a credit card in her own name. I could have one. I was 21 years old. So the differences in making sure that with some of the laws changing, and they've been really a lot of good laws to make a difference, to make sure that all kids are included in being successful, and a lot of professional development. And of course, some of the major changes that have happened recently, since I've been a superintendent, is the bargaining. We had bargaining early in my career as a teacher. We had bargaining rights for teachers. Okay, now we still have to do some bargaining, but they've stripped the language, so it doesn't have to occur that way. We continue to work with our teachers association, and we really didn't take language out. It's not required, but we work with them to make sure that they feel valued and significant. And so when we think of the bargaining, I think the funding has changed, because we used to have 100% that was devoted to public education, and now what we have is about 90% of the students are being educated in public schools, but 10% of the money is now going to, say, vouchers and charters and such. So we've really taken the pot of money and we've reduced it by 10%. So that's been a challenge. We've had some other standards required for salary schedules and such, and of course we exceed all those kinds of things. I think there have been more opportunities we had a full-day kindergarten. I can remember we were among the first. I put a full-day kindergarten in Logansport before it was required to do that, or we had the opportunity. We had a grant when I came up here. Mitch Daniels was the governor. So we put in full-day kindergarten. We've added some preschools, which gives an advantage to kids that would not have that if we didn't have a formal public school system. We think of the comprehensive curriculum offerings. We have at Penn High School and across the state of Indiana, we have more curriculum offerings. We have more opportunities. The integration of technology, the introduction of technology. Before we didn't have email, everything was slower. It's at a much higher speed. Now we have information we can share immediately. The kids with all the different kinds of technology have a better chance for learning. We have more specific career tracks for students so that they can, an interest, all of those things.
Let me ask you about what's happening currently. There are some challenges coming. In fact, just today we're talking about President Trump signing an executive order that will start the process to formally end, he's going to try to formally end, the Federal Department of Education. Are any of these challenges factoring to your reasoning to say, you know what, this is getting to the point where I don't want to have to deal with this anymore?
No, those aren't factors in relative to why I would be retiring. In fact, the greater the challenges that we have, the more likely I am to stay. I'm leaving because I'm in great shape. But those are issues. And so we start looking at public education. There's a national teacher shortage, and we have a president who's saying he wants to eliminate the Department of Education at the national level. Okay, it doesn't look like there was a lot of thought given to what they're doing. They're making wholesale cuts. And so I don't know which areas are going to be affected, but I'm looking at grants that over $100 million at some universities that they're freezing across the country. As a matter of fact, it's impacting the United States. It's impacting international students. It has makes a negative effect on aspiring teacher candidates. In fact, over the last several years, we've had fewer and fewer candidates. I know Ball State just a few years ago said they were down 35% with the number of teacher candidates. We've been fortunate PHM as a great district, and we work hard at recruiting. And we are fully staffed, and we have great teachers working here. Not every district has that, but those kinds of things, if you continue to chip away, and he's not chipping away. I mean, if you continue to dramatically change things in public education, it's going to have a negative effect on our country.
Do you feel like that is the biggest challenge right now facing education from this point moving forward?
I think that because of the national attitude toward public education And I'm in favor of people being able to choose. I think there should be accountability for every single choice, because I think that every single student deserves an opportunity to learn well. And when if there's not accountability, there's probably not going to be the same kind of equal choice. But and we're glad to compete with anybody. But with the funding, making sure that with these different kinds of mandates, cuts at the federal level, which carry over to the state, and then as we look at any kind of cuts here, of course it's going to reduce funding. And when we think of the funding and the state, and they're saying here's a mandatory cut point for starting salaries, we exceed that. But other districts that wouldn't, if you don't build some funding in, which they're not, and they're giving more money to, say, vouchers and such, there should be a set of accountability with our government, making sure that they cost these things out. So that's going to be a challenge for lots of different districts, and those are going to be issues. You'll see some kind of declining enrollment, and that when we think of the triangle of success, you can't have the triangle if you don't have the people in the schools. So people, if they're trying to go it alone, they better have a lot of resources. So
some superintendents, after they get to the point where they retire, feel a little freer to talk about the issue of parents and how important parents are in that triangle. And some go as far as to argue that if the parent support isn't there, if it doesn't start at the home, the chance of success is greatly increased, greatly decreased rather. Do you feel that way as well, that it has to start in the home?
There's no question that the parent involvement's really key. When I think of, and there have been studies done, and they look at when you think of scholarship winners, the students virtually always have an important teacher that they can point to, at least one, and usually lots of them, and parents. And so if you have parent involvement, it will make a difference. When the parents have high expectations and in collaboration are trying to ensure success for the kids, they're going to be successful. We have one of the most successful school districts in Indiana and the country. And a lot of that is due to the great parents that we have actively involved in supporting public education and working as a partner with the teachers.
I want to be mindful of your time, but just a couple more quick questions. One of them is about the future from this point going forward. If you were to stay, what would be the next big thing that you feel like PHM has to tackle to really continue to move the district in the direction you want it to see it move?
Well, they'll always have to continue working on professional development, hiring, attracting, retaining great employees, and making sure that we focus on curriculum instruction assessment, making sure that the student learning is at a high level. And then when we talk about that, how do we attract and retain teachers? We have to make sure that they're paid well. And so we're among the highest paid in the area. Okay, we need to make sure that we work with the legislature to take care of all the taxes, and I'm a fan of reasonable taxes, and like I said, we've been the lowest tax rate in a couple of counties around us. So the biggest thing will be financial, and as they put a lot of restrictions on when people can have, and we don't have a referendum, but I look at some of my colleagues across the state of Indiana. If they built some things in and then that's taken away, so if they can't have a referendum or renew something, they're going to have drastic cuts. And so if everything that we're doing if many things that we're doing will have a negative outcome for schools, it's going to reduce the number of people who want to become teachers, and teachers truly do touch the future. Those teachers, I think of that triangle of success, they are key to the success of some of these kids. We have kids who are school dependent. And so we need to have the great teachers, and let's make sure that we do something to attract them. Everything that we could possibly do to promote public education, we should be doing.
And the last question along that line is, what about within the classroom itself? We've known that special education is something that continues to grow. The number of kids on the autism spectrum continues to grow, and those kids are being integrated into the classroom, and sometimes there are some challenges that come along those sides. Is that also an issue that you feel like not just PHM, but every public school district in the country really needs to be able to handle and find that right success?
Right. When we think of creating success for all students, that really does mean all of them. And that means if some of the students have special needs and they need additional support, we need to be able to fund that. So the key is going to be adequate funding to ensure that we can use that triangle. When we think of the triangle of success, student, teacher, parents, sometimes we have additional teachers and they're providing that support in special education. All of the kids that we have should have that opportunity to be successful. If we can get them off to a great start here, they're going to have a great lifetime.
Question for you, personal. What's next?
Well, I'll share this. Okay, I love being the superintendent. I love coming to work every Monday. I love the start of a month. The start of the school year is my favorite time of the year. The very favorite time of the year is opening day with the teachers, and then I love it when the kids show up 2 days later. Okay, so 2 years ago I was going through radiation therapy all summer for cancer, and I'm in great shape, I'm healthy and such. And so my wife and I had been married 50 years, didn't get to celebrate our anniversary. And so I asked her what she wanted for a gift, and she said, I want the gift of time. So we do have a condo in Florida, and so we'll spend some more time there. We'll do some things in the winter months in Florida, and probably back and forth. So back and forth, we'll do some of that sharing of both places, and I'm going to do some, I'll do some education consulting.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to the WSBT 22 YouTube channel.